Taiwan, I'm Reece Ayers with news from here in Taiwan and around the world. Taiwan has slammed Chinese claims that it's found more than 1,000 cases of Taiwanese spying. China's security ministry says it's part of a campaign to strike hard against espionage. For more on these developments, Louise Watt joins us live from Taiwan's Mainland Affairs Council, the agency that deals with relations with China. Louise, what have they been saying?
Reece, here they're saying it's all about Chinese bureaucrats trying to fulfill a performance target, and to do so they're either exaggerating or they're abusing their power. The deputy head of the Mainland Affairs Council, he told reporters here that the approach of the Chinese Communist Party hasn't changed in decades. High-ranking officials, they come up with targets, and then it's left to the lower-ranking officials to fulfill them any way they can. So this claim of 1,000 spy cases, this goes back to earlier this week when China's top spy agency said that they'd broken up a large number of spy networks set up by Taiwanese in China. They said they'd uncovered more than 1,000 cases involving espionage and the theft of state secrets. They also reiterated that they will punish Taiwan independence forces. And here they specifically mentioned the name of one individual, Yang Zheyuan. Now, he used to be a Taiwanese political activist, and he's also the first Taiwanese to be arrested and prosecuted in China for the crime of secession. Now, China's top spy agency, in their statement this week, they called him a Taiwan independence leader. Now, Deputy Director Liang from the Mainland Affairs Council here, he says this is nonsense. He told reporters that before Yang's arrest, he was simply teaching Chinese chess in China and even participating in some competitions. In Liang's words, he said, "It is quite absurd that someone like him can be labelled as a leading advocate of Taiwan independence just to achieve those Chinese goals." Now, Yang is not the first Taiwanese to be prosecuted in China. There's been a series of Taiwanese who've been imprisoned in China on charges of espionage and subversion. And as for this idea of advocating for Taiwan independence, that's something that China has been trying to criminalize. And in fact, in June, they said that extreme cases of what they called die-hard Taiwan independence separatists, they could actually face the death penalty. So what does all this mean? Well, the Chinese and Taiwanese governments aren't talking to one another. And every time there's news about a Taiwanese being arrested in China or the threat of arrest, that puts off more Taiwanese from visiting there, hampering relations between China and Taiwan, not just on a political level, but on a personal level too.
Thanks, Louise. That was Louise Watt reporting live for us from Taipei. Taiwan's east coast has been hit by several earthquakes in recent days, with a magnitude 6.3 tremor rattling Hualien early Friday morning. While no major damage has been reported, the threat of earthquakes is a constant presence for those living in the region, as Chris Gorin reports.
Another earthquake strikes Hualien on Taiwan's east coast. It's the second large quake in as many days for the region, and the shaking and uncertainty have become all too familiar for the people there.
因为在吃早餐，所以那时候感觉那个整个地名起来，然后都是左右摇晃，摇得还蛮久的，但是大家都蛮镇定。
我觉得没有怕不怕呢，大自然的力量都是要敬畏。
A magnitude 5.7 earthquake first struck on Thursday evening near Yilan. The following morning, an even larger 6.3 quake off the coast of Hualien. While both resulted in strong shaking, they were far smaller than April's magnitude 7.2 quake and aftershocks that resulted in at least 18 deaths and damage worth millions of dollars. No major damage has been reported following the two most recent quakes, and officials say they're not related to the one in April.
位置相当靠近那个我们0403今年0403的那个震央余震的分布区，但是因为那个0403那个整个余震的那个能量，我们初步判断是那个释放的已经有一个阶段了。这个地震呢，我们暂时不把它归属为说是0403的地震，而是一个独立的事件。
But seismic experts are warning that aftershocks from large quakes are still possible.
In reality, if we take a look at the large earthquake or gigantic earthquake around the world, it is not surprising that one large earthquake could trigger another event, maybe say months later or even years later.
Earthquakes are always disturbing when they happen. But in an area as earthquake-prone as Taiwan, they're just a way of life, which is why residents here have no choice but to carry on and be ready for anything. John Su and Chris Gorin for TaiwanPlus.
Rare images of one of Taiwan's new military drones is showing how the country is investing in unmanned vehicles as it deals with threats from China. It's part of Taiwan's plan to build a drone fleet, taking inspiration from weapons used in the Ukraine war. Jaime Okan reports.
In a promotional video, Taiwan's military reveals one of its newest approaches to warfare. Strapping explosives to a drone, flying it through an obstacle course until it finds and hits its target. These unmanned aircraft, known as kamikaze or suicide drones, are still under development, but are a key part of efforts to modernize Taiwan's defense strategy.
I think it's exciting that we're seeing real progress in Taiwan embracing the uncrewed system revolution and really seeing some purchases and development of smaller drones like quadcopters. And I think that's a very positive step when we're talking about Taiwan developing an asymmetric strategy to deter and, if necessary, defend the island.
Taiwan is under threat from China, and it's been trying to find ways to boost its defense, as Beijing has a much larger military. One strategy is to shift away from older, more traditional systems like tanks and fighter jets, instead investing in asymmetric capabilities like drones. Drones like this quadcopter cost roughly $1,000 US, much cheaper than a fighter jet, which go for millions of dollars. Given the threat Taiwan faces, analysts say the country will need to incorporate both kinds of systems into its overall approach.
因为我们之前有解释过 asymmetric 这个 strategy 跟这个 conventional strategy 其实它是一个 mix 混合的哦。那在台湾来讲，目前当然是这是 more priority 更优先，也就是参考乌克兰成功的经验，它用很 low cost 或 low budget 去改装。
Taiwan has been looking closely at how Ukraine is using drones in its efforts to push back against Russia's invasion. There are now plans to build what the Defense Ministry calls a drone fleet, taking commercially available drones and upgrading them to a military standard.
What's cool about this capability set in particular, and again, sort of what we've seen in the Ukraine case as well, is these systems are all super easy to operate. I think for Taiwan, it's a good strategy because at the end of the day, this is about flooding the zone. It's about using large numbers of small things that will really help, punch China where they're the most vulnerable.
Taiwan is getting ready to conduct its first live-fire test of newly produced kamikaze drones on Monday. If all goes well, mass production could begin in 2025, getting Taiwan's forces better prepared to deal with threats from across the Taiwan Strait. Andy Shri and Jaime Okan for TaiwanPlus.
Thailand's parliament has voted in Paetongtarn Shinawatra as the country's next prime minister. 37-year-old Paetongtarn is the daughter of Thailand's former premier Thaksin Shinawatra. She is the third member of her family to lead the country. Her selection follows a constitutional court decision to remove Seta Tavasin from office for breaching ethical standards. Ukrainian forces appear to be gaining ground in Russia, with Kyiv setting up a military office on recently captured territory. The surprise Ukrainian incursion that began last week is the largest attack on Russian soil since World War II. Ukraine's top commander says his forces have captured 82 settlements and an area of 1,150 square kilometers in the Kursk region. Russia has been scrambling to contain the offensive and has pushed forward with its own attacks in Ukraine's east. Ukraine's ally, the UK, has given it the go-ahead to use donated weapons in its advance, which were previously restricted to defensive use. North Korea has marked its Liberation Day this year by again vowing to deepen cooperation with Russia. State media reports that leader Kim Jong-un's latest pledge was in response to Russian President Vladimir Putin's congratulatory message. Putin said the two countries have a historic bond that goes back to their shared fight against colonial Japan. Russia has sought to strengthen relations with North Korea as it continues its war in Ukraine. Kim and Putin signed a pact in June for a comprehensive strategic partnership, which includes a mutual defense agreement. An upcycling company in northern Taiwan is giving new life to discarded furniture and clothing with the help of people from disadvantaged backgrounds. Irene Lin looks at how the firm is expanding its work to benefit the earth and society.
This store in northern Taiwan may look like a regular secondhand shop, but there's more to it than meets the eye. It's called the Carpenter's House. For the past 25 years, it's been giving products that were thrown to the trash heap a new home, and the people from disadvantaged backgrounds who work there a new lease on life.
我们希望人可以修养而学习，物可以修复而珍惜，让人跟物都可以在木匠的家找到一次重生的机会。
Woodworker Zhong Lifang is the mastermind behind these new counters for a local cafe made out of discarded bed frames. She's among the many workers here who have found themselves in need of some help or a career pivot.
会接触到木匠的家，那是因为自己身体虽然出了一点状况，没有办法像以前那么大量的接案，那但是对于木工这个部分，我有独特的情怀，所以我当初有一个理念是，好的环保就是从设计开始。
To upcycle old items, you need to start with good materials. The Carpenter's House receives truckloads of unwanted shipping containers and wooden furniture every day.
哎呦，这被蛀虫，这个有救吗？这个没救，没救。
Once they filter out the unusable items, the rest goes straight to the studio, where it's broken down and finished, then reassembled into cell phone stands, coasters, tables, or whatever their clients want.
是一个小朋友的那个书包箱，他背书包箱，那他想说买回去当桌子给老奶奶给吃饭用。
The company also transforms discarded clothes into stylish new products. With the rise of fast fashion, designers here say they receive 10,000 bags of secondhand clothes each year. Many of them had never been worn. These assorted denim jeans have been remade onto this patchwork jacket. But designer Huang Qianrou says it's not easy to sell items like these.
但有些人会觉得这件衣服破破烂烂的，怎么能穿？那有些人会觉得说，可是这个视觉效果很好哎，那我穿出去不就很潮？所以会有这种两种反差。
The Carpenter's House has won the praise of sustainability experts and worked with fashion design students in doing field work and competitions.
我当初跟教育部提我们大学社会责任实践计划啊，就 USR 计划，就是以木匠的家做基地。然后我的计划的目标要成立一个环保工艺博物馆。
Last August, the company was forced to find another warehouse after the lease was terminated early. It has recently announced its official new location and has displayed some of its work in a local furniture store. Once it settles in its new home, the founders and workers at the Carpenter's House can get back to work, saving waste from the landfills by giving a new life and new homes in the local community. Dongfing Chen and Irene Lin for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website or follow our social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally, take a look at some of Taiwan's Olympians from this year's Games at the Presidential Office, where they're meeting with President Lai this afternoon. I'm Reece. Take care and see you next time.
For more stories from here at the Twin Oaks Estate and around the world, make sure to visit Taiwan Plus News on social media.